Hey, you guys!
Welcome to the DG Podcast. This is episode 99, part B. Got Rhett here with me.
Well, we've almost hit critical mass.
Yeah, almost.
We've almost at that moment where there's no turning back, and there's not much more we can do about it.
Exactly. So, first off, the internet has been, I don't know if blowing up is probably not the right way to look at it, but news about the new Suicide Squad stuff has hit the internet. Evidently, Will Smith, for some reason, they call it the Wild West style Deadshot. I don't know what that means because I haven't been able to find it.
If he's anything like the character he played in Wild West, that's not a good sign.
Well, right. The thing is that they said it was an accidental reveal, and it says, and let's see, on the tail of the accidental reveal of Will Smith's Wild Wild West style Deadshot, and the most divisive Joker image ever seen on the net, and they finally put the picture out of the rest of the Suicide Squad, and he actually looks, Will Smith's Deadshot character actually looks more appropriate in this picture than a Wild West style Deadshot. So hopefully there's, that's looking up at that point. But it's kind of funny because the guy that was talking about this picture points out that Margot Robbie, who is playing Harley Quinn, is probably the worst when you're looking at this picture because he compares her to a half-baked fan cosplay. Yeah.
Actually, the sort of cosplay where the chick goes, I'm kind of attractive, so I'm just going to dress slightly slutty and then kind of look like the character.
And paint my face a little bit, yeah. And they were saying, he looks better in this picture, Will Smith's Deadshot does, but it looks like he's from a different film with Slipknot and Rick Flag. I'm not sure who they are. I assume they're the two other dudes with guns.
Yeah, they have guns.
And so, and it doesn't even mention the Japanese chick in the front row at all, anywhere in this guy's article.
I love Batman. I read a lot of Batman. I have passing familiarity with most of the characters. I've just never actually read any of the Suicide Squad stuff. I've actually seen the movie that they made.
Which was pretty good.
Yeah, which was pretty good. But as far as Suicide Squad stuff, I can't say that I know much about it.
Right. So the premise, if I understand it right, is that basically Amanda Waller, who is a government agent of some sort.
Yeah, she controls a lot of what happens with the government on this weird, creepy end. Her and Batman run into each other a lot.
She basically grabs convicted criminals and stuff and forces them to run these ops for her, with the understanding that if they fail, they're dead. And if they're successful, they come out of it alive somehow. I'm not really sure about how that part's supposed to run. I mean, for the most part, some of these look pretty cool. I mean, we were just talking about Killer Croc's image in this before we started, and he looks okay, but he's always going to look a little bit odd in real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know how easy it would have been to pull off a Killer Croc without turning him into like 100% CGI, and that would have just been way too costly.
Yeah. But Rhett did make a good point about Killer Croc, that they should have just gone trolling for the biggest ugly muscle-looking guy they could have found.
Just excessively muscular guy they could possibly get. Because Killer Croc doesn't have to have inspiring actor qualities behind him.
No.
They should have gotten just the biggest, thickest dude that they could have possibly found.
Right.
Tall and then just ugly muscle. That would have been the best solution for Croc.
As it is, he looks kind of, normal. I mean, his head looks a bit swollen, but other than that, he looks about normal compared to these other guys. He is the tallest one in the group, it looks like. But he should be at least a head taller than everybody.
Not by much.
You're right. Like I said, he should be at least a head taller than everybody else in that photo. At least a head taller. Anyway, the thing is that it's just from watching the animated movie that they came out with, and like I said, that was pretty good. I don't have a good feeling of confidence with this Suicide Squad movie coming up.
To be fair, though, not being a big fan of it, they don't have to impress me too much.
That's true. I mean, if they
whatever they do, I'm not
do a decent movie.
Yeah, I mean, my hope is that because it's connected to Batman and because I care about Batman and Gotham City so much, it'll be great. But I'm not one of those super fans who has to worry too much. And if they screw it up, I'm not going to be super butthurt.
Right. The guys that are going to be super butthurt are the ones that are huge fans of the Suicide Squad. And let's face it, how many of those could there be? Anything new cropped up in your life in the past little while?
I helped Lindsay move. And that was like a full day's worth of just stuff. I mean, we had to move on the least good moving day to move anybody. A Sunday.
Yeah. Well, she had all that graduation stuff the day before, right?
Yeah. Well, she was moving, but it wasn't like she was moving very far. She's moving apartments because she found another place where she could have her cat and that sort of thing. So it's not as big a difference for that, for all of that. But I helped her pack everything, clean the entire apartment so she could get her deposit back. And then I helped her move everything over. Now here's the weird part. She was only moving 3-4 houses down the street where she was, which worked out great because we didn't have to get a truck. We didn't have to pack everything in like multiple trips and that sort of thing. It worked perfectly.
If nothing else, you could have just walked a couple houses down with the boxes, right?
Well, as far as time consuming goes, it didn't take very much time at all. It was, because of that, more difficult. And what I mean by more difficult is, so you carry a box, and it's like, I've got some strength to me, I can carry this box up the stairs, even though it's kind of heavy, put it away. That's great. However, imagine carrying that heavy box up the stairs, outside, down the street, down the block, about 4 houses. You're carrying a heavy amount of weight for a longer period of time than you're normally used to.
Right.
It's a whole nother moving thing. And despite the fact that it was shorter, a fairly shorter, easier move to do, it was a lot harder. and I'm not one to complain, but I don't know. I carried a Tupperware container full of books. That's half a block.
Books are always heavy.
And it was so heavy that I actually either seriously bruised my arm or tore a muscle in my arm. Because it bruised out like crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, it's a thing. A bunch of people from our church showed up. The weird thing was it was Sunday, so everybody was trying to like help out just before church.
Right.
And it was just walking stuff down the street to,
Yeah.
move it to another location. It just felt silly. And it was one of those things where if we had a week to do this, it'd be great to just,
A box
slowly
here,
move
that,
things
there.
from one place to another as opposed to having to do it all in one super go.
Yeah.
But we didn't have a week. We only had the one day we had to move out. So we did. And that was it. Despite that, I didn't really do a lot. Me and Lindsay are still slowly hashing our way through Daredevil. She quite likes the show.
So you've watched it all, but now you're watching it with her?
Yeah. And it was good enough. I want to watch it again anyway. So.
Right. And you're picking up on things that maybe were more subtle, that you didn't pick up on the first time through, right?
Yeah. I would say that.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to remember. I watched the Punisher films. I think they got him wrong.
In which one?
Both of them.
I liked the original Punisher, the first Punisher film that they did.
The one with Dolph Lundgren?
No.
That was the original one.
Because they did 3 then, I guess.
Yeah.
The one with John Travolta.
I did like parts of that one.
It was good. I liked it. But
what I thought was kind of weird was his neighbors. They kept trying to bring him out, like they were trying to bring him out of his shell or something.
I think whoever put the movie together understood that Punisher is just a terrible character to try and make relatable because he's just broken and furious. So what they did was give him neighbors to try and humanize the guy in some way by creating sort of likable characters with the neighbors. You know
I guess so.
And I think it worked to a degree. I actually was more interested in the neighbors' personalities than I was in his personality because the Punisher's not that great.
He's pretty two-dimensional. Even one-dimensional, maybe.
Oh yeah, he wants revenge. That's the Punisher. No matter what you think of the character, that's just what he does. They actually tamed him a bit more because there's a sort of torture moment that isn't really torture. He just convinces the guy that he's burning him alive.
Which was hilarious.
I thought it was quite clever. He didn't actually have to torture him, but in any other Punisher situation, he super would have tortured the guy.
He would have. That's kind of one of the things that I was like, well, it is funny, and when they're sitting around the table,
you don't have a ridiculous hard R movie either.
Yeah, they were sitting around the table. The neighbors were, and he was there eating with them, and they're like, "We should go around and say what we're thankful for." And they go around the table, and then it gets to Frank, and he's sitting there, and he goes, "I'm thankful for the food."
I like him as an actor. I've seen him in a few things.
Yeah, I thought he portrayed Punisher well.
Yeah.
I just thought there were a couple things in there that didn't fit with the overall.
Yeah, the movie wasn't perfect.
Yeah. But I did like the ending.
It was the best of them all. So did I. I thought it was well put together. It was sort of one of those planned came together, so to speak, stories.
I love that part where he's standing outside and he's like, he's face to face with the villain at last, and he's like, he says, something like, "Well, you killed my son," and he's like, and then there's an explosion behind him, and he says, "Both of them."
I like how he forced him to sort of do it himself.
Yeah.
He brought about his own destruction, and it was probably the most beautiful revenge you could get, as opposed to just purely, I'm going to go and kill your family. He did it himself, and that was great.
That was great. Trying to think of anything else that I've been doing. The thing is I sit there and I go, man, I should relate this on the podcast that I did this kind of nerdy thing, and then I get to the podcast.
I watched a Kung Fu movie sometime earlier this week with Donnie Chang, and he's great. He did Ip Man.
Right.
He was Ip Man in the movies. I watched a movie he was in. I forget the name of it, but it's usually on the list of good Donnie Chang movies.
Right.
So I watched it. It was pretty good. As far as the narrative and stuff, it wasn't the greatest story, but the martial arts was pretty solid. And the story, compared to a lot of crap martial arts movies, was actually good by comparison.
Well, what was
it actually had a coherent story.
What was the name of the movie?
Flashpoint, I
Flashpoint?
think. I forget what it's called, but I think that's it.
Okay. Oh, I'd been watching this show. I didn't realize they did 2 seasons of it. I only thought they did 1. There's a show called Better Off Ted.
Yeah.
It's a hilarious show.
People love that show, and it didn't go very far. And
No,
it upset a lot of them.
The thing is that, like I said, when I found out about the show, I watched it when I could. But the thing is that it was at the same time as, I believe it was, Once Upon a Time. And my wife liked that one.
The only thing I knew about the show was that Rabbit fans were unhappy it disappeared.
Oh yeah. I was upset that it was hilarious. The actors were good. The stories were smart and funny. And they didn't result to slapstick. I mean, they did, there were a couple times when they actually did a little slapstick, but it fit.
Right.
And the thing is that Ted is the manager of a research and development group. And so it's all about how the company interacts with him and how he gets his team to work. And he's like the ethical one. And, so his boss will come in and say things like, we want to freeze Phil. And Phil is one of the scientists, and he's like, you want to do what? He's like, we have this new technique for freezing human tissues, and we want to try it out on Phil. We think we can do it. He's like, wait, you think you can do it, or you actually can do it? But it was a pretty good show. I really enjoyed that one, so I've been watching it. I've been watching the second season and a lot of the shows that I missed from the first season because my wife was watching Once Upon a Time, which I thought was lackluster and
women love Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
If you're honest about a lot of those shows, they're terrible. But what are you going to do?
Yep. So.
Be honest? No, you're not going to be honest.
I'm going to be honest. I hated it. Anyway, so I decided to make Chance's day. And I found a list about 20, that they call 20 mind-blowing facts you never knew about Green Lantern.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And the first one on the list is he hates Batman.
Yeah, he does. And in fact, they spend a lot of time in conflict, each of them.
Yeah. Evidently, in the first episode, or the first issue of the New 52, Batman stole his ring.
Yeah.
And so this guy that did this Green Lantern run, evidently, at least in one episode or another, one of them was punching out the other one. So.
Well, New 52 sort of set up where they're all individually doing something.
Right.
And they all sort of run into each other. Now, the problem with that was that they all individually felt that they all had sort of like the corner pinned down on being the hero.
Uh-huh.
And Green Lantern showed up, and he was trying to save some people, and Batman showed up, and Green Lantern's like, you better get out of here. I'm the guy that's supposed to be saving the city.
Right.
And Batman's like, how are you going to do that without this? And then he looks down, and he's got the ring. And Lantern gets so pissed, and he's like, you should be able to do that.
Oh, that's so funny. Anyway, number 19, he seduced an underage girl.
He did.
Well, it seems like it's more the other way around.
She seduced him?
Well, something like that. Evidently, this girl, Aricia, became a member of the Corps. She had a crush on him, and she used her ring to subconsciously age herself so she could hook up with Green Lantern.
Yeah, that's mostly her fault as opposed to his. Hal Jordan's always been kind of a horn dog.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's unsurprising that he sort of ran into that problem.
That's probably why Chance identifies it with him so well. Jack Black almost played Green Lantern in a comedy version.
What a terrible idea.
Yeah.
In a comedy version?
Yeah. Yeah, it says, transforming fearless test pilot Hal Jordan into a furniture store employee, an all-around loser and slob called Judd Plato.
Honestly, that would have been more interesting.
Probably. This Green Lantern would have used the ring to create an elf for his friend to have sex with and a condom to trap criminals in. Probably a good thing that never made it off the drawing room floor. For a while, his sidekick was a starfish.
I don't recall that. But...
well, there was a time when they tried to give everybody in the DC universe a sidekick because it worked so well with Batman and Robin. And
right.
He was originally a mentor to a hero who could travel radio waves, and then they paired him up with an alien starfish called Itty.
I think I remember the alien starfish.
Evidently it died, but later came back, so... Hal Jordan was not the first Green Lantern.
No, he wasn't.
No. Green Lantern was created in 1940, but Hal Jordan didn't become Green Lantern until 1959. The first Green Lantern was Alan Scott.
Yeah.
And his powers were the same and different. He could use the Green Lantern power ring that he had to do the constructs and all that, but his powers were magical as opposed to, I don't know, technological.
Yeah, he wasn't actually part of the Corps. He
Yeah.
had this different looking lantern on his chest, but everything was effectively the same. Like, he had the green powers and he could create constructs.
Right. New York's mayor was a Green Lantern fan.
Rudy Giuliani?
No, John V. Lindsay.
I'm not a New York mayor knowledgeable person.
So Speedy, Green Arrow's sidekick, became a heroin addict, and they dealt with it in the comics, and it actually, the way that they dealt with it and the way that they helped Speedy overcome his addiction or whatever, impressed the mayor, so he wrote a letter commending the story. Anyway.
When Daredevil was created, despite the dark nature of the character,
Uh-huh.
a lot of people that did the groups who support disabilities and that sort of thing came out in big support of the character because they liked the idea of a person with a disability overcoming it and becoming a hero.
Right.
Despite the disability. And I was like, yeah, that's right. That is a noble story, noble effort.
So Aladdin inspired Green Lantern's powers.
Aladdin?
Yeah.
What, just because he could just think of anything or wish anything he wanted to?
Something like that. They actually thought at one point to name Alan Scott, so the original Green Lantern, Alan Ladd. But, yeah.
That's like, hey, it's Captain Marvel. No, I'm an alien called Captain Marvel.
Yeah, exactly.
Really? Really?
You just go with Marvel, dude. Batman painted himself yellow to beat him up.
Yeah, that's what's so weird about the original stuff with the Green Lantern.
Uh-huh.
The color yellow itself hurts
Right.
him, or at least damages him.
Or he can't. He
It's
can't
not
do
so much
anything
that
to
way.
it. Yeah.
Right. It's not so much that way anymore. I haven't seen any of that, like, excessive, ridiculous color yellow stuff.
Right.
But it's part of the canon where literally the color yellow can beat it.
Right.
And that's ridiculous. Like, at no point should they ever have a chance against the Sinestro Corps because of that.
Right. Exactly. It's kind of funny. What happened here was Robin and Batman painted themselves yellow and trapped Hal Jordan in a yellow room, and then beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, that would super work. I mean, the problem with Green Lantern is always the problem that item-based heroes have.
Right.
Where Thor is awesome until he doesn't have his hammer. What is it?
Well, any of those.
Green Lantern's awesome unless he doesn't have his item.
Right.
Shoot, Iron Man is awesome until he doesn't have his
armor.
suit.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so the Green Lantern Corps aren't the only corps.
Oh no,
Yeah.
there's so many of them.
There's Red.
And with the last, Darkest Night deal that they did, there's actually, they spread it to a lot more than just the few.
Well, they have,
like
let's see.
indigo and crap.
Red, indigo, blue, orange, white
The
and
blue are
black,
interesting.
yellow, and pink.
Yeah.
So let's see. There's been more than one human Green Lantern.
Which is weird. And actually, there's more than one Green Lantern on the Earth. There's like 3 or 4, which doesn't make any sense because they're like, well, we need a black Green Lantern. And I was like, oh, that's weird, but it's okay because the black Green Lantern that they created was actually an interesting character.
Right.
Then they're like, oh, well, we need, they had Kyle Rayner, whatever his name is,
Kyle Rayner. This one says they included Guy Gardner, Jon Stewart, Kyle Rayner, and most recently Simon Baz. It's kind of funny to note, and this is in his little article here. He said that when Ryan Reynolds was cast as Green Lantern in the movie, evidently there was a lot of Twitter protest, I should say, fans protesting on Twitter because Ryan Reynolds got it, because they were used to seeing Jon Stewart in the Justice League Unlimited animated series, and they had no idea who Hal Jordan even was. Yeah,
it was always Jon Stewart in the animated stuff, so they all figured that Green Lantern had always been the black guy.
Yeah.
So they were protesting that they had changed the gender. Interesting.
Or the race, anyway.
So the race. So it's okay to change the race of one character from white to black, but not black to white.
Yeah, exactly.
Curiouser. The only reason why I would be okay with the change of the character himself was originally intended as a black man. The only time I would be okay with it is the core itself is sort of inherently part of a big group.
Right.
And you could have different people hold the ring at different times.
Right.
That's the only time I would actually be just fine with it. Other than that, I would probably be weirded out if the character inherently had always been black and then they changed it. I'd be like, why do you change it?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't do that. Stop
You're
trying
confusing
to destroy. Me. Yeah.
His girlfriend's corpse was crammed into a fridge.
I don't remember that. Was that what's her name that was part of that Star Corps, the geek one?
No. Kyle Rayner. It was his girlfriend. He had a girlfriend named Alexandra DeWitt.
Kyle Rayner had always been a little bit darker than the other ones.
Yeah.
He was probably the cooler of the few.
Evidently,
Jon Stewart was also more interesting than Hal Jordan. I always thought Hal Jordan was just a douche.
Yeah. He's definitely not as fleshed out, I don't think, as the other two were.
Well, he's like part of the bro force. That's always how I felt he was.
Could be, yeah, I get it. Hal Jordan went crazy and killed pretty much everyone.
After his city was destroyed.
Yeah. Cyborg Superman destroyed Coast City, and he went on a killing spree. Let's see.
And he went after the big heads at Oa because he felt that they had enough power to fix it. And they're like, well, we can't do that. And then he went nuts and started fighting the other lanterns.
Yep. And killing them and stealing their rings.
Yeah, so he could be super powerful.
Yep. Chris Pine might be the next big screen Green Lantern.
Chris Pine, remind me who
he played Kirk in the recent movies.
I don't know. Maybe if we see him in a different role, I'd be less mad about it.
Well, the thing is that I'm not too enthused about a new Green Lantern movie. Green Lantern's never been a superhero that I've been super interested in.
But I believe that they deserve to give the character justice.
Yes. I think that Chris Pine could do a good job. I thought his role or his job as Kirk was pretty good. I had no problem with it.
I didn't, though. I thought it was passable. But I didn't think it was a good Captain Kirk. Not in the least.
Anyway.
I wonder what Chance thinks about Pine being Captain Kirk.
We'll wait for the email. Evidently he's a racist.
Chris Pine?
No. Green Lantern.
Okay, how is he a racist?
Well, evidently, there's a 1960s story, Hal Jordan, Green Arrow, they go on a journey to help normal Americans, and there's a guardian of Oa that's disguised and following with them. And he's
black and he wants to see how they handle it or something.
Yeah, this angry black man comes to him and says, I've been reading about you, how you work for the blue skins, and how on a planet someplace you helped out the orange skins, and you done considerable for the purple skins, only there's skins you never bothered with, the black skins. I want to know how come. Answer me that, Mr. Green Lantern. And his response is, I can't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, he's a guardian of Oa. I'm pretty sure he would know if he wanted to. He's not like God or anything,
yeah.
But I have a feeling the guardian of Oa would be like, yeah, I know if this guy's a racist.
Yeah. This wasn't a guardian of Oa asking him this. It was a black man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is
that you haven't done enough for our people.
The thing is that he's on Earth. He's protecting Earth from whatever extraterrestrial threats come towards Earth and whatever. I'm pretty sure that's helping black man. I could be wrong. You know, I mean, if he saves...
saving the Earth is probably saving everybody, but what are you going to do?
He has... Okay, so the next one is he has his own roller coaster.
Does he?
Yeah.
In real life or in the comic books?
In real life, you go to Six Flags in New Jersey.
Yeah, of course New Jersey gets the...
It's kind of funny. It didn't
coaster.
start out as a Green Lantern roller coaster. It was a green roller coaster that when the movie came out, they rebranded it as the Green Lantern roller coaster. So.
Odd.
Yeah. Jon Stewart destroyed a planet.
Did he?
Yeah. Evidently, Mogo, the sentient planet who's a member of the Corps, was corrupted and started creating killer Green Lanterns. So Jon Stewart destroyed it.
I hadn't heard about that.
Evidently, Mogo put himself back together and forgave him. But, you know.
I think it's one of those unfortunate things that they do with heroes all of the time, where they're trying to make the hero tougher or harder, or trying at least write something new, and they end up doing a lot to damage the character because they add a lot of sort of well, what if he snapped and did this? And all they end up doing is just hurting the character.
The Superman neck snap thing, yeah. The gay Green Lantern, number 4.
Yeah, one of them was gay.
Evidently, it's the Alan Scott Green Lantern.
Yeah, that's the thing that changed, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, there's going to be a new gay character, one of the new big main characters in the DC universe." And everyone went, "Oh my gosh!" And then they go, "Oh, the Alan Scott Green Lantern." And then everyone went, "So?" Like nobody cared about the Alan Scott Green Lantern for decades.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden they're like, "All right."
It would be a huge thing if Batman turned out to be gay.
Yeah, just suddenly he's like, "That's why my relationships don't work, not because I'm just, you know,
a broken human being. It's because I'm gay." Yeah.
Damaged like the new Joker.
Exactly.
That's what Batman should have. My parents are dead, you guys. I have a tattoo that says damaged on my forehead.
It's so dumb. Oh.
He looks like somebody who would more likely work at Hot Topic than be the Joker.
That's true. So true. or a semi-failed white rapper.
Oh yeah, a super failed white rapper. Oh no, he
had a couple hits a few years back, but he's been struggling for a while now.
A Marilyn Manson wannabe.
There you go.
I worship Satan, and also I sing really bad music.
Okay, so the next one, Iron Lantern. There was a huge crossover between Marvel and DC, and Hal Jordan got smashed together with Tony Stark and became Hal Stark.
I think Tony Stark would probably do better with the ring, at least creatively.
Probably, yeah.
Problem is, as far as will is concerned, I couldn't say Tony Stark actually has very much will.
He's definitely more a more creative of a person, but yeah, I don't know about that. So his villains included Madame Sapphire, who was Madame Mask and Star Sapphire, and Mandarinestro.
Sinestro and the Mandarin?
Yeah.
It's a weird combo.
Yeah.
Sinestro and the Mandarin.
Uh-huh.
So, an alien, Asian-looking guy?
Maybe I'll have to do a search. Anyway, he's going to be teaming up with the crew of the Enterprise in a new comic, evidently. That's the next one. DC Comics and IDW Publishing are going to do a crossover between Green Lantern and the crew of the Enterprise, which is featuring the Enterprise crew that they're featuring is actually basically the current version from the movies.
From the movies?
So, yeah. And then the last one. Green Lantern and Wonder Woman were supposed to be a couple.
Really?
Yeah, in the 1970s.
That doesn't seem like it'd work, because Hal Jordan's too much of too much of sort of like that bro dude sort of thing. And I don't think Wonder Woman would put up with it.
Let's see, they planned on it, but the reason it never happened was they received a piece of fan mail which suggested the same idea and legal reasons. And the fan could have later claimed that DC stole their idea, and so it forced them to drop the plan.
That's stupid. And in fact, there have been decades of people saying, if you have a great idea, don't mail it to us, because if it's good, we're not going to look at it because we don't want to be accused of
stealing your idea, yeah.
Stealing your idea. So they don't look at stuff, and if it happens, they just have to legally say, well, we don't check out ideas, we don't observe those.
Yeah.
So it's none of our problem. As far as couples concerned, it was always sort of Batman and Wonder Woman for a long time.
For a long
until
time,
the New 52, where they finally did like the power couple. Nobody expected, well, everybody sort of wanted, but nobody expected Wonder Woman and Superman.
Right.
And that's a power couple right there. Their kids are going to be awesome. If they have kids, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, the thing is that I guess I'm just from the era that grew up with Superman and Lois Lane, and I don't feel the Superman Wonder Woman thing. I know that they've been a couple before, or at least there's been flirting going on between the two and attraction, but I just never really liked it.
Right. I always thought it was a clever idea, and it's probably one of those things that won't work, and then there'll be resentment as he moves on to Lois or whatever. And then she's going to be all like, who wants that petty ex to be Wonder Woman of all?
No kidding. You come outside, and instead of finding your car keyed, you find it flipped over and stomped into pieces.
Oh, she could do worse.
Have you seen the movie My Super Ex-Girlfriend?
No, but I've seen parts of it. It's sort of a similar.
Yeah,
concept.
Exactly.
He used to date this superhero.
Uh-huh.
Well, not. He didn't know at the time she was a superhero. It was played by Uma Thurman, and she becomes that obsessive ex-girlfriend. And hilarity ensues.
Yeah, she rips out the wall of his apartment and like tosses a shark at him.
I think part of the problem is he moves on and dates somebody else, and she is not having it.
Yep, and it's like after he finds out, he breaks up with her after he finds out who she really is. And so he knows that he's been dating this superhero chick. But, yeah, it wasn't a great movie, but it was pretty funny.
It's made by one of those what's their buckets. That one guy.
Yeah.
He has. I know I'm terrible with names, but he has another brother in Hollywood.
Let's see. Here we go. I found My Super Ex-Girlfriend. Ivan Reitman was the director.
No, the guy who.
Luke Wilson.
The guy who was dating him. Yeah, Luke Wilson.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, he ended up dating her, and then they broke up, and she ends up becoming the obsessed ex-girlfriend with superpowers.
As much as I didn't care for the movie, at least they were going for somewhat of a unique new idea, which can't be said for Hollywood at all. Really.
Yeah, they're a bit lame a lot of times.
I heard numbers over how like rated R movies as opposed to G movies are done. Because everybody and we've touched on this before, but how bad the difference is between, like, studios will not buy G movies. They just don't want them because they don't want to sell them and they don't think that they'll sell. Despite the fact that, now here are the numbers for you. Rated R movies only account for about 11% of the entire movie industry gross. And they account for about 40% of all movies made.
Right, so they're close to 50%, but they're making only 11% of the money.
Yeah. And they seem to think that, oh, well, just those movies don't sell. You know how many crappy G-rated Barbie movies are sold every time they're produced in CGI? We have like 17 of them on our shelf because my mother buys one every single time one comes out because my niece loves those flippers.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of them too because I've got daughters.
Yeah. And to assume that you can't just sell those movies is baloney. Yeah. People want those movies. They're craving for movies that everybody can see. Why do you think Pixar is so awesome? Because not only do kids like it, but parents are like, wow, this is a clever movie. That's pretty good.
There's something there for both the kids and the and the adults. You know, the kids see one story, the adults see the subtext, and you know they make these clever movies that people want to watch, and not only that, but people want to buy later.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, that's a hard balance to strike.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, Pixar hasn't been 100% successful with it, but they've done really well.
Yeah, they have.
You know, it's kind of the funny thing. They say that one of the ones that didn't do, I don't know how to say it exactly, but one of their flops for Pixar was Cars 2. I actually liked Cars 2. I thought it was well done.
I never saw it, and I didn't want to see it because it was sort of politically minded, and I was like...
There is a little bit of preaching about the dangers of gasoline, and big oil is bad and stuff, but...
Yeah, I'm going to go all organic. Oh, so you'll only be able to drive 5 miles before you have to refill? Interesting.
But that's the thing. It's like, we all know big oil is bad. You don't need to keep telling it to us.
Well, it's not so much big oil is bad, but the fact that you have a huge industry that we have to rely on.
That's true.
It's like inherently they're not bad, but they know that we have to pay them large amounts of money, and they know for a fact that we're going to buy it because we have to.
Yep.
And that's all we can do about it.
And you know, to be fair. Maybe this isn't to be fair. This is more of an attack on big oil. The thing is that I've heard several times, and it's just urban legend, I'm sure, but you know, there's all these things about revolutionary new fuels and new engines that have just huge leaps forward in gas mileage and things. But everybody says the only reason we don't have that stuff yet is because big oil's always crushing.
Yeah, that's actually baloney.
Exactly.
Yeah. If they thought they could earn money off it because of how much hype there is involved around the clean, green stuff and how green... I mean, shoot, every new vehicle that comes out tries to advertise it's kind of green.
Yeah.
Even though it's not, they try and advertise that. If it can earn money, because their purpose... And that's one thing people need to understand when it comes to companies like this. Corporations have one motivation. You can always trust it. They're trying to earn money.
Exactly.
And if they can make something that people want to buy, then they will make that thing. They will sell it. the reason why we don't really have very good electrical cars is because they suck.
Exactly.
And people don't want them because they suck. I mean, we still have to haul stuff on trucks. We still have to have vehicles that can drive more than, 20 miles before refilling.
Exactly.
And even then, they're not really better for the environment because majority of electricity comes from coal, which isn't good for the environment. So why don't we figure out a way to create longer mileage cars? Perhaps we figure out alternative fuels that are more effective. But the technology just isn't there right now, and pretending like Big Oil is going out of its way to make secret packs to try and suppress stuff is just bullcrap. It's nonsense. It's one of the most conspiracy theorist dumb-ass things I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't think that they would want to earn money, really? You don't think that that's what... Of course they would. They would in a second. They would make it in a second.
Exactly. They would drop everything if they thought they could squeeze money out of it.
The amount of financial effort it takes to suppress something like that is minuscule in comparison to they could make a crappy version of an electric car, and if it worked better than all the versions of electric cars right now, people would buy them in a second. They could make the car completely out of paper, and they would purchase that car because people are obsessed with that sort of thing.
There's all those... They would be targeting all the granola out there. They say, you know, all those tree huggers and stuff, we have the perfect car for you. It's made out of recycled plastic, and it's electric, so it doesn't pollute the environment, and, they would sell that.
You don't
Actually,
think
they could come up with a biodegradable car that ran on electricity.
Oh, yeah. It's like, not only is this car awesome, but I could drive it into the forest and then it would just re-hug nature.
Exactly. When
it was done. Like, it would just come back to nature. Because, I would send the car to its natural habitat in the forest. If you don't think that a car manufacturer would be... If they could make their own sort of fuel, just a new, different type of fuel made from, corn or something. Well, corn's a perfect example with ethanol. But if they could make a new type of fuel just randomly out of, whatever, if they could corner the market on it and they'd be the only ones that sell it and it works better than gasoline, it has more energy than gasoline, you can use more, it's cost effective, better for the environment, they would make it in a nanosecond because they'd
corner the market.
The market cornered on it, and they would make and sell and manufacture it. Ethanol, people hoped would be that new alternate form of energy, make it from corn. Guess what? Ethanol sucks, and the amount of corn it takes to make ethanol is baloney. Yeah. You're basically just taking huge amounts of swaths of land just to make enough ethanol for it, where you would be better off just feeding people with that amount of corn.
It would be better used as a food source than a fuel source.
My car can run on ethanol. My Jeep. It can. Apparently it doesn't take a lot to actually modify a vehicle to run on ethanol. It's actually not that difficult, which would have been perfect if ethanol wasn't a stupid dream.
I mean, if they could figure out how to streamline the process, get a higher yield out of the corn to make ethanol, then, but... Yeah,
but then you can't have GMOs and mutant corn. Every single piece of food you eat today is a GMO. If you buy the most organic food you've ever gotten in your entire life, I guarantee you it's a GMO because they have modified the genetics of it in order to yield more stalks of corn more ears of corn per stalk. No corn out there exists now that's actually natural and not GMO. Period. And pretending like you're being super conscientious and that they're putting chemicals in. GMO, all it means is they genetically modify in such a way so they can produce more. Some GMOs potentially could be more dangerous. This has got stupidly political, Jason. You're in charge of this podcast. Why are we going after GMOs?
I'm not sure. I was trying to follow the train of your thoughts there.
It doesn't make... don't follow the train of my thoughts. It's like trying to make sense of a childhood drawing from the Joker. It's like, did your parents hurt you? He's like, no, I just drew it.
Anyway, actually, I was going to say, going along with the GMO stuff, if you look back in history, that has been the object of farmers to modify the food crops so they grow bigger, they grow faster, they produce more. We've been advancing the technique is all. They were doing it
since the beginning of time.
They were doing it with like paintbrushes and doing it painstakingly. Now we can take the genes apart, unzip them, and zip them back together. It's the same thing.
If it wasn't for the existence of GMOs, we couldn't actually feed the planet. Because we have too many people now, and we aren't able to actually produce the crops that we normally would be. And it's been proven over and over again, and whatever high-in-the-sky theory you think that it's not true, it's just baloney. If you do the math, and if you look it up, you actually can't produce enough food for the amount of population that exists on the planet anymore.
Anyway, anything else? Anything you want to talk about? Other than GMOs, we've exhausted that.
Other than GMOs, the nerdiest podcast on the internet. GMO. Stay tuned for more GMO-related conversations. There was, I don't know, a lot of the normal just drama that's been going on in the gaming community lately. Still, there's a lot of that fallout from the whole Steam mod thing.
Yeah.
And Valve admittedly said that they actually didn't know what they were doing.
They didn't know what they were doing?
No, that it was sort of like their trial run, and everybody was like, why did you do a trial run on what is perhaps one of the most modded games in history? Skyrim. And they're like, well, it didn't work and stuff. It's like, why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do a trial run on, say, a game that has, like, one mod, not really that great. Maybe going for an all-out, you can mod everything in Skyrim kind of game, maybe not such a good idea, but they had a lot of community and a lot of testing, I don't know there was a lot of data there. And I think that's probably why they went with it.
Yeah. They had the Floyd Mayweather Pacquiao fight this last was that Saturday or Sunday? I don't recall. I think it was actually Friday. Anyway, Mayweather won. I think to my disappointment, I probably wanted Pacquiao to win. And Mayweather won with Pacquiao having a blown out shoulder, and he wasn't allowed to actually give himself painkillers so that he could fight with it. And I don't know. It was this whole drama thing, and nobody actually really wanted Mayweather to win. And he was convicted of beating his wife.
So wait, he was in a fight with Pacquiao, and the guy had an injury. And
yeah, from training previously.
And they didn't postpone the match?
No, well, here's the thing. When it came to the fight, Mayweather put a lot of really weird restrictions on it. Because he refused to fight with Pacquiao for basically the last 5 years. They've been trying to get this fight to go, and Pacquiao hasn't been able to get it to go.
Okay.
And Mayweather had a lot of weird restrictions that kept sort of stonewalling it and that sort of thing. One of them was they had to do drug testing constantly, and they weren't allowed to fight without the without all these excessive drug testing. Another one was it could only happen in America, where the fight was, and he picked the venue. And then when they did bring him in, apparently they had Pacquiao in like a room in the basement of the building of the MGM Grand. It was just weird. And there were a lot of other weird things, like if Pacquiao lost the fight, he wasn't allowed to call for a rematch. But if Pacquiao won, Mayweather could call for a rematch. There were a lot of other weird restrictions. I could Google it. But somebody did a really funny version of the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight out of Punch-Out, which is why I'm bringing it up. Because you watch the fight in Punch-Out like you would watch, fighting Mike Tyson as Little Mac. But instead, Little Mac is Pacquiao and Mike Tyson is played by Mayweather. Because apparently the fight was super boring. It wasn't a heavy hitter fight. It wasn't entertaining for people to watch. It was a lot of avoiding, and it was a lot of going in for the clinch, the hug, if you will, to prevent a lot of blows being done. And Mayweather spent a lot of time apparently hugging Pacquiao, which they joke about in the Punch-Out that they did. But a lot of it was just running away. Huh. And Mike Tyson actually commented on it as, we waited 5 years for this joke of a fight. Like, Tyson himself was like, yeah, that was stupid. And despite the fact he won, it wasn't like a blowout, and it wasn't just, you know what I mean?
He, won on points or something?
Yeah, I mean, it went to the points, and there was no, big knockouts, and it wasn't an exciting fight to watch. It was just a stupid fight. And it was one of those fights that everybody's been hoping to see for a long time, and we finally saw it, and it was like, underwhelming would be the word. Much like most Super Bowls, they kind of suck.
If we have anybody out there that actually likes watching the Super Bowl, I'm just going to tell you right off, straight up, I only watch the Super Bowl so I can watch the commercials. I don't care who wins. I don't care who's in it. I don't care what goes on in the halftime show. I just want to watch the commercials because they actually do put a lot of effort into that as opposed to what goes on most of the time. So, other than that, yeah, I could care less.
Interesting. Apparently, the social media movement known as Gamergate held its first U.S. meetup called Gamergate in D.C. on May 1st at a bar called the Local 16 in Washington, D.C. But in the wee hours of Friday nights and Saturday morning, as hundreds of people were mingling and having a good time, police converged on the scene and evacuated the building because apparently somebody cut a bomb threat on it. Now, aren't the Gamergate people supposed to be the crazy, irrational people who are threatening people online to rape their children, murder them in their sleep, and doing all these other things? Wasn't Anita Sarkeesian really afraid of these people, and it was just like these terrible misogynists that were doing stuff? And they have a little gathering, and somebody calls it a bomb threat? Perhaps the scumbaggery are on both sides.
Maybe just a little bit.
Perhaps you're not, this isn't cut and dry, one side's cleaner than the other, huh? Huh? You would have done more for your argument by fake calling a bomb threat on your own events, and then never calling bomb threats on the Gamergate.
Huh.
But no, you had to make it worse. What, you were worried that they were going to chat in person as opposed to online? What are you going to do?
So, just to round this out and tie things up, I found this article about Gwendolyn Christie. She's going to be in the new The Force Awakens. She's playing, her character is Captain Phasma. She's...
That's a stupid name, but okay.
Supposedly an Imperial officer, it looks like. She's got this... It looks almost mirrored. Here, let me pull this up. It's like... It's Stormtrooper armor, but it's like chrome. Anyway, there's some spoiler alerts that go along with it because they're saying that evidently she plays John Boyega's commanding officer, and John Boyega's the black guy that popped up in Tatooine, and she's mad that he deserted, and so she's looking for him. So evidently, the John Boyega switches loyalties at some point. And it says that the actress who's going to be playing her has been training with a lightsaber. So, who knows?
Maybe she's one of those eventually gets trained, or secretly the child of a Skywalker or something.
Well, it says Captain Phasma could indeed, as first rumored, reveal herself to be a Sith Lord or Inquisitor type as a twist in the film. A strong female dark side antagonist to rival Daisy Ridley's Rey. Whoever Rey is and whoever Daisy Ridley is. Maybe I'll have to look up those people. Anyway. So, who knows? It looks like she's also the one that kind of in the trailer has the stormtrooper with the cape and the black armor. So.
Right.
Anyway.
One thing I wanted to bring up before we got out of here. There was news to hit a little while ago that we didn't talk about, I believe last week, where the first Dragon Ball anime TV series in 18 years is going to premiere in July. So they've actually brought back Dragon Ball. We're finally going to see another series in about 18 years. So yeah, it'll be interesting where it goes, but it's called Dragon Ball Super.
Dragon Ball Super, huh?
Which is probably the weird, English translation.
the closest they could come.
Yeah. But it'll start airing in Japan in July, and we'll probably see it quite a bit later, or somebody will get it dubbed or something within, a day.
Probably.
Non-sanctioned dubbing will exist within a day of this thing being aired online.
Yep. Well, anything else you want to say before we call this podcast?
No, not particularly. I would like to say that as we approach episode 100, we appreciate all of the support by anyone who's listened, accidentally listened, was looking for porn and found our website, and can't leave, but we appreciate all who have listened and participated, and we will see you on episode 100. We'll try and make it as fun as possible, and hopefully those who do listen will bring in as many people as we can to make it as memorable as possible. If you can get text messages or pictures or tweets or Facebook messages or whatever we can so that we can spread the love come episode 100 and see where we go from there.
Join us for episode 100 and we'll see you then.
Right.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Distracted Gamers podcast. If you like the show, follow Rhett and Jason, the world's two most lethally stupid internet personalities on Twitter at DG Podcast, or check them out at www.thedistractedgamers.com. If you loved or hated what you've heard here, email them at thedistractedgamers.blogspot.com and share your feelings. Not that Jason will care, since he hasn't any, of course.